Thank you, everybody. I'm going to ask Yasmin to provide the introduction, and then we'll go to Reza for the talk. Yasmin, all yours.
Thank you so much. First, Reza, it's really my huge pleasure to welcome you here. I mean, I wish you were here in person, obviously, because I think it's the French way is just, you know, we like face-to-face interaction. Is very, it would have been really amazing. And I would have loved, you know, touring, helping you tour Penn State and this really wonderful campus we're in. You've been with us with Corbelletti this week, and it's like our annual Corbelletti drawing competition. And I wanted to introduce Reza Azard, who is founder and co-principal with Hervé Boutet and Daniel Metzaros of the award-winning Paris-based architecture studio known as Projectile. And when you pronounce Projectile, I'm hearing, and I don't know, Project Island or Project Île Island in French, because your work really guides you to really enchanted and mysterious places. And the work you've shown yesterday was from another planet, really. It was really absolutely wonderful. And the students were really lucky to see this work. And as you write on your website, Projectile takes on an authentic and poetic approach in resonance with our contemporary society. You call upon moving landscapes, oral heritage, ancestral puzzles, the unexpected particles of intimate and collective stories. Beyond the notion of comfort, it is the pleasure offered by architecture that animates us. I mean, animates Projectile. So today I'm really looking forward to look at the work, because your practice is transdisciplinary and you work at multiple scales at the crossroad between architecture, urbanism, scenography, and furniture. All of your projects, however, are entering in conversation with the culture of the places that these projects are meeting. And so you'll have the occasion to hear more about the work, but I just wanted to give a little bit of a flavor. There is the international exhibit on the famous French fashion designer Jean-Paul Gaultier, Planète Jean-Paul Gaultier, that toured in Montreal, Dallas, New York, Madrid, Stockholm, Rotterdam. You have the 2016 French Pavilion, which earned a mention at the 14th Biennale of Architecture, the Venice Biennale, and the Venice Biennale then was curated by Rem Koolhaas. Then you have the absolutely incredible Journey Through Time master plan for Alula that you showed yesterday. I'm hoping you'll show like one or two images, because it's quite incredible. And of course, many museums for which you actually earn quite a number of prizes in architecture, the Grand Prix d'Architecture of Wallonie, ADC and AMO Awards for the museum in Lodève. That was in 2019, that was quite incredible. Reza, you are a wonderful educator. You taught at l'École Spéciale d'Architecture, which was actually, interestingly, for those who are interested in the history, it was founded in the 19th century in reaction against the Beaux-Arts modes of education. So it was quite a wonderful place to discover your work and the drawings you guided your student to make. These drawings were collected in a book and collected at the and shown at the Venice Biennale as well. You're also continuing teaching at the École Nationale Supérieure d'Architecture de Versailles. I mean, so many things you're doing, and one other things for sure is that I've heard you in jam sessions, like really an excellent rock musician. So I really wish you were here to play with us. Thank you so much for being with us. The students are probably really cranking on their drawing. They were very stressed and excited to be honest. They were very excited by the brief and but also very stressed because they wanted to do well. So I'm welcoming you, and this is recorded for the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for this presentation, and it's very comment dire, I had this emotion 2 days before, so sorry, maybe today because you told this yesterday before. But yesterday, not today before. I'm completely lost in translation. And now I know, oh, it's 2 days before because now it's after midnight. So now I share my screen, and of course, thank you, Yasmin and Merda and Penn School to invite me, and it's a very big pleasure, and also very big frustration to not be with you. And of course, it was very exciting for me. Travel I had in my head, and unfortunately, the situation of COVID didn't allow us to meet together. So maybe I share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you see my screen?
Yes, fantastic. I see it.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So, as you said, Projectile is, as the graphic design of the title is shown. Projectile is written like island and archipels and archipel, and it's exactly like that. And it's the island of desire, the projection of desire, and island of desire. So island of desire, and so it's why. Our transdisciplinary activity is continue to exist and is keep on existing as it was like the first day, because we started with little scenographies and exhibit designs and some dispositif and some settings, art settings, and we started after to do some housing and social housing, and now we are doing the most important part of activity is museums, but we are still trying to do little exhibitions because it's very funny things, and it's like a playground to keep on doing exhibitions, and it's yes, very exciting conceptual things to do exhibition designs. So this is the three of us. So I wanted to show the others because unfortunately they are not with me to present. So Daniel Metzaros, Hervé Boutet, and myself. And so we are three partners, and Hervé is a designer, and Daniel and me, we are architects, but we have three different journey through architecture. And so and we met together. I met Daniel a few times when we was young, and he's one of my oldest friends, and we play a lot of music together, and after playing a lot of music, we decided to play architecture. And Hervé is a designer, and we met him on 2005, and we decided the three of us to make Projectile. So and Projectile is also this is the picture from lockdown period, and it's of course a Zoom meeting of the office, and so we see all the staff of the office, and there, and you can imagine that you can see that it's quite young staff, and we, because we like really well to of course to work with youngs and of all generation, and also all the different nationalities, and it's an international office, and of course we would like to keep them longer, as long as possible, but they often they want to go by their own way, so they change their life after a few years. and sometimes they change their activities, and they become they try to design some clothes. Some of them are in different things. So I start by a little project, very little thing. It's a very important little things, and so they are very little, but they are very important. So that one is, this is the little object is a double silicon suction cup. And we invented it because it was very important for us for one project. And it's a precious object and a binder that allows to create that. And this is a mikado, as you know, I think. And it's an intermingling and interdependence between objects. And this was the concept of this exhibition, which was a traveling exhibition, itinerant scenography, dedicated to show the work of 15 young architectural offices. The concept of mikado was for the metaphor of what young people today must adopt as posture to constitute a network, a collective work. The era of individuality, star architect, is, in our opinion, over. We are entering a period where we shine through the collective. So the project is defined by addition of backlit sticks, assembled together with a very important double silicon suction cup, and without any screw. This is important. And here, so that's allows for assembling in different way and in different situation. Here, the gallery of Cité d'Architecture. Here, of course, also the gallery, Cité d'Architecture, and each six represents one office. So it's also pictures and also videos inside the sticks. So the videos shows 24 hours of work of one office. So here another configuration in another city, more surface, more disseminated. Here in a chapel in Brittany. Here in another chapel, we set it in two different chapels. So so it's made me transition to go to light and also to another Wild, a very important little thing. Which is this one, and this is not a glass for drinking, but it is a drop of crystal. It's made of Fontainebleau sand. It is the finest and whitest sand of France, the Fontainebleau sand. And it's a project of chandelier for the castle of Fontainebleau. So it's made so Fontainebleau, and we wanted to use a local material, a material that represents the immediate territory, and not the gilding of Napoleon, but something more poetic. So the drops are strung like pearls, and they become a chandelier. And the chandelier are undulating rings faced with the mirrors of the rooms, because in the rooms there's always mirrors in Fontainebleau. Their reflections take another form, and the forms are multiplied. Each chandelier becomes multiple, like a character with several characters, like a complex soul. And we called it Elisa, because the name of Napoleon's sister, and because she's not, of course, famous like Napoleon, but it is said that she was a very radiant woman. So it's interesting because now the castle asks us to do more chandelier for other rooms. So this very little thing starts to grow and to contaminate the castle step by step. So here in a gallery of the introduction gallery of the castle, it's done with a smaller scale, but it's the same, of course, the same chandelier. Another light. This is another exhibition in Museum of Quai Branly. And this exhibition was an event in the world of primary art. 300 of the most important Dogon sculpture. I think it's Dogon also in English, we say. Dogon sculptures, where Dogon is a population, old population from Mali, they are habitant. They habit in the falaise, the plateau of Bandiagara, and the Dogon sculptures were brought together for the first time at the Musée du Quai Branly. The Dogon are a cosmogonic people. Their ancestors had a great knowledge of the stars. Dogon myths are closely linked to cosmogony and celestial fire. We sought to produce a strange and particular light for this exhibition, a cosmic light, a light of star fires. The sculptures are placed on luminous pedestals and surrounded by a backlit curtain. They float in the middle of the light. The visitor slaloms between the pedestals. His image mixes with those of the sculptures. From there, the meeting is born. So here we took maybe, I don't know how many days to check and to adjust the good color of light, and after how many days to have the good photographer, because also it was the second step, was to have a good picture. So so yeah, it's yeah, like a cosmogonic exhibition with very old sculptures. Okay, now I start a big chapter about walls, and I start with small walls, and it grow until big walls. So in walls conversations. So walls are in museums. They seems to be passive or support just artifacts and displays. And but walls is much more than that. And walls, of course, at first we think that they divided, but there's also it's also a link, a wonderful link and wonderful actor for making spaces. It's dependent on how you draw the wall. So this is the first example of wall I wanted to show you. So here, it was for the competition for the Mediterranean Museum, MUSEM, for the interior design. And so in this museum, which is created by Rudy Ricciotti, you know, Rudy Ricciotti loves concrete and loves structural concrete. So the ceiling of each space was a very strong concrete ceiling with the beams together, just juxtaposed beams, and you can hang what you want. And it's completely over-dimensioned, but it's very nice very good looking and very nice to imagine that you can hang what you want. So we said, okay, so maybe we can hang all the walls. So imagine a museum with all the walls hanged. And why? Because this museum is close to sea, and so if we hang all the walls and we stop the walls 5 feet from the below, you can, when you are sitting, you can see the sea, and also the space horizontally is dilated. And when you stand up, you are in the labyrinth of rooms of museum. So so it's like a schizophrenic. And I imagine if you extend this idea and you remove the envelope of Rudy Ricciotti, that became a museum just with wall hanged, suspended, and it's this is a picture of a model from Nishizawa, and so I imagine the museum like that, but of course this not museum. I don't know what was this. I don't remember, but it's not a museum, but I imagine museum like that. And also what's very funny is that when you draw the plan of this museum, all the line are dots. They are not continue line. so that's I think would be one day. I hope maybe we can do that one day. But of course we have to have some columns, of course, but I'm talking about walls. So another wall here is the Venice Biennale. So this is the French pavilion done by an ordinary functionary of an engineer of government, and it's a very basic pavilion of the beginning of 20th century, look like the 19th century. So in 2014, we were selected to design the French pavilion at the Venice Architecture Biennale. The existing building is a symmetrical pavilion with a large central space and 3 rooms on the periphery, 2 vestibules overlooking a promontory square on the outside. We arranged the pavilion by organizing everything with a 45 degrees angle. The 45 degrees walls give the pavilion a strong visual identity. The threshold becomes more, here we see the threshold, becomes more deep, showing several layers. And the system increases the number of, inside, I'm talking about inside, the system increases the number of surfaces embraced by the visual cone. We use this ability to give a multiplied effect, like a kaleidoscope. The projection of the same media simultaneously on all the screen gives a kaleidoscopic effect and a feeling of ubiquity to the exposed images, because we decided to put the same video and same timeline everywhere. So you have also this confrontation between different topics of modernity. And because of course, some in 3 rooms, you haven't, it's not synchronized with the topic of the room. And so, and also I composed the music of the pavilion. It was just harmonics, and each room they had it had excuse me, an harmony, a specific harmony, and when you walked through the space, the harmony changed progressively between one room to another one. So, but and when you was in between 2 rooms, you had the mixed between 2 harmonies. So it was just playing with 4 harmonies. So this is another room with a 45 degrees suspended prefabricated concrete wall. And this is the central element. And we can see here that you have this inclination also allows to install a series of visual porosity in diagonal through several rooms. So that's also interesting for that. Here, another way to build walls. And so for the exhibition Tattoo, here the exhibition on the art of tattooing at the Musée Quai Branly again, on one of the mezzanines of the permanent exhibition gallery, where the ceiling height is very, very low. Certainly, we can admit that this low height is a defect, but this form of anomaly gives us the opportunity to propose something specific in order to avoid that the walls close the spaces in a succession of small rooms with a very low height, causing an oppressive feeling. We wanted to free the horizon. So we experimented low walls with 5 feet height, forcing ourselves to expose everything below 5 feet. It is the opposite of the exhibition at the Musée de la Méditerranée, the museum. Here, the walls comes out of its neutrality and becomes a scenographic object. And you see, because you see the thickness of wall, you have the conscience of the thickness of walls. And so everywhere in your progression, in your journey, so it's not just wall, you see that it's a thickness, it's an object. Here again, another view. So here, another way to do walls, it's an exhibition about jazz. The exhibition talks about jazz and its influence on the plastic arts. Yes, plastic arts, we can't, they said art plastic of the 20th century. So we talk about influences. Influence of the music on the plastic art, on the art, we can say. The exhibition is organized according to a chronology. The works are grouped in spaces surrounded by walls, each space being linked to a decade. The sequences are linked to a lively artery that is the main axis and the speaks of jazz. This space is a metaphor of the lively street. The axe, the central axe we see. But there are also other influences than music. Influences that are not displayed, but that exist. It is the influence of one era on another era. So here the walls are sequenced, as we see in the plan. They are sequenced, separated by cracks, openings, holes, and emptiness that allows to frame and in depth on other spaces, on other works. We wanted to put in the field of the visitor several works of different periods. So you see here, when you are looking at this picture, you see also different paintings. So we work with the curator in three-dimensional accrochage, three-dimensional, adding, assembling, displaying. Yeah. Thank you. So linear and also in deep. So it was a very difficult thing to do. So here is more classical, but here you see you have the co-visibility of different artifacts. Okay, so this was another wall. And now the wall, like as a material, and the wall confronted to a heritage. Here, Versailles, in 2012, we realized the gallery of the history of the Palace of Versailles. The permanent arrangement of a string of 11 rooms of the palace. It was for us, yes, quite. We was very proud to have won this prestigious competition, because it was the first time, the first modern layout in the history of the castle. So for us, it was very impressive to be selected for that, and a very unusual situation. So here, the project is quite radical. We used one and unique material, the Korean, which is beautiful to work and to design. It is also a solid material to resist to the very high frequentation of the museum, because there is 10,000 visitors per day. So you can imagine 10,000 visitors. I saw it, it was crazy, because you can't see nothing, and it's just a flow of people. It's seriously, it's very stressful. And so here, the geometry is also radical. We worked on the emergence of massive shapes towards the center of the rooms. The extrusion of the rectangular geometry from the base of the rooms allows us to create distances from the paintings. In the middle of the rooms, masses are suspended. The lower surface, here you see, the lower surface is luminous and illuminates the bases below. Above the mass are arranged projectors that illuminate the paintings on the peripheric wall. All the materials is engraved Korean. Each room's walls are engraved with patterns in relation with the period and the topic presented in the room. The engraved pattern on the wall appear as you go up. Thus, on the lower parts of the walls, there is no pattern. This could conflict because the pattern would be a conflict with the paintings. So it's why it's a graduation of engraved wall, and in the upper part, the pattern are really existed, and they are clearly visible. So using corian on very large surfaces like this makes you forget the material. It looks like a futuristic plaster, a sophisticated plaster. It's a really amazing feeling, because I didn't know that I will have this feeling, because it's like it's very ambiguous when you have this scale of corian, because you imagine that, wow, it's who did the plaster beautifully like that, but it's not plaster. So it's interesting when you use a material in another scale than it used usually. Here, another project and another way to do walls is the Loret Museum, which is it was a very complex project. We started in 2011 and we finished in 2018. So 7 years of work, study, and also the work site was very long, because we did it step by step. And it has the existing building was a combination between 3 different periods of history. So a mansion of Cardinal Lemoine, which was from 16th century. We see here in the square part and left part. The museum is here, if you see my cursor. And on left, this is the 16th century. And here it was 17th century, and here 19th century. So it's a mix of these different periods. And Lodève is a city, a Roman city in Montaigne, in the south of France, in the north of Montpellier. And so there is a tradition of poetry, and also there is a very, it looks like to be a very rich city, but it's a very poor city, because there's a lot of worker here, because there was in the beginning of the 20th century a lot of factory around Lodève, and so we hadn't enough too much money to do that. So it's why also it takes time, because when you haven't money and you want quality, you have to take time. So we just demolished from the elevations, the facades. We just demolished the fold. And it's our entrance, and the entrance, public entrance, and the other parts we kept them, and but we will see we demolished a lot inside when it wasn't classified, heritage classified. So here the museum we'll see after. So this is the facade, and you see the fold on the right, from which you can go inside. So the museum is organized around 2 courtyards: the heritage courtyard, the historic one, the first one, on green here, Cour Caladé, of mansion of Cardinal Fleury. Here, the Cour Caladé we can see from the exterior, from the street, from inside. And this is the top view, sky view of this first courtyard. And this is the second courtyard, which is more contemporary, of course, because here we could do things, because the other was completely classified by by heritage system. So here, what was interesting is half of this courtyard is 16th century, and the half is 21. So here in this void, the central void is the distribution of the museum, and also the welcome spaces, the shop, and the public space, first public space. Here the museum is not just one museum. It's it's three museums, three different museums, and organized in one museum. So the first museum is Museum of Fine Art, and mostly around one sculptor whose name is Paul Dardet. Very impressive sculptor. You will see some sculptures. The second was Archaeology Museum in the same level. The third was the temporary, no, the first is, this is the temporary exhibit rooms. And the third was here the Paleontologic Museum. So it's three museums, but three of them speak about Earth, because the work of Paul Dardet is very linked to the Earth, to the soil. Here, image interior from interior picture from Archaeological Museum. Here, the Paleontologic Museum, and here Paul Dardet, the Fine Art Museum. So here again, Paul Dardet. So the three museums are connected by a void in the heart of the project, formerly the courtyard of the building. This space is the link that unites all the sequences of the museum. It is covered by an ETFO foil. We saw at the beginning when I showing you the skylight. Here, minerality, of course, dominates. For this project, we wanted to express the living and raw aspect of the materials. So the poor concrete is shuttered with the wooden boards. It fills all the voids and follows the limestone of the mansion as closely as possible. And what's interesting also, the presence of the faune. This is the faune of Dardet. The faune dialogues. There is three actors here. So the walls, the heritage walls, the contemporary walls, and the faune. And so there is yes, tripod. There's tension between these three elements, and it's interesting because the three of them are from local earth, local material, but they are transformed in different times, and they are together in the same space. And so here, all technical devices and the ventilation system were integrated into the shadow gap between the concrete walls. In a former and historic skylight, we insert a staircase here, also built in raw concrete, whose railings are made of thick black laminated metal sheet. Le garde-corps. And this project expresses a strong imbrication between the existing and the contemporary intervention. So we see again the laminated metal like a bridge. Here again, this courtyard. Okay, the next project, the next wall transformation is a Folklore Museum. The Folklore Museum in Wallonie, so in Mouscron, I don't know how we spell Mouscron in English. So the Wallon Folklore Museum is part of a city dominated by the industrial landscape and the brick as the material of the city. The project is inscribed along an alley between the parking lot and the large garden of the museum. The slender and crenellated volume of the museum is placed in a continuity of a group of old vernacular warehouse. We see here, between the courtyard and the garden, the building is an interface in the relationship between mineral and vegetal. The building adopts a horizontal profile, a writing and a materiality in dialogue with the vernacular constructions of the surroundings. The crenellated exterior profile characteristic of this project corresponds to the rhythm and height of the interior rooms. These rooms are built in a domestic approach and dimensioned according to a square grid. They are differentiated from each other by their height and their articulations according to the needs of the museographic program. So this is, so you see this different height, and it is the direct relationship between inside and outside project. So the objects exhibited here are totally vernacular and testify to human activity and uses that are disappearing, of course, unfortunately. These objects must find within the museum a domestic scale of display. So the exhibition rooms are thus conceived like the room of a large house. The beams of the ceiling and the wooden framework of the partitions, the size and position of the windows deliberately break with the abstraction of the museum white cube. The objects are not sacralized, but they are organized and simply exposed in order to interact with each other while playing with while playing with the ordinary of the architecture. The whole approach of the project could be summed up in the search of the contemporary vernacular, an architecture that has a grip on the everyday, that welcomes the most ordinary users, that specialize human rhythms. Each room is linked to the use of and the tradition of using. For example, here is the bourgeois interior. So here the height is more important. And it's why there is different heights. Some, for example, in the tapestry workshop, the tapestry is buried, half buried in the ground, in the traditional placement of the machine. So we did exactly the same. And what's important also is the materiality of the museum is constituted by an assembly of white paint brick walls. The brick of the facades are a mixture of old and new bricks. And this idea comes from the artist Simon Boudvin, whom we invited to collaborate on the project, proposed to mix old bricks from demolished buildings in the city with the new bricks of the museum. Simon Boudvin imagined this facade as a sort of architectural palimpsest that invisibly evokes the long life of things and resituates the building in wider temporal cycles, as if he were making it porous to time. Okay, and the last museum I wanted to talk, maybe I'm a little bit too long, I don't know. No, it's okay. Okay. So to finish, I would like to show you a project that we designed about 10 years ago in association with the Catalan architect José Luis Mateo. It was an international competition for the Lascaux Cave Art Museum. The cave of Lascaux preserves drawings from 26,000 years ago. It is one of the most famous caves in the world. It is now closed to the public because of a bacterium that has invaded the walls, a kind of fungus because of the visitors' frequentations. In the 80s, the French government decided to rebuild an identical cave. The high frequentation of the second cave also made it sick. The same disease at the original cave. So the state decided to build a second copy, identical to the original cave. And this was, we participated in competition for the second copy, and also to make at the same time a museum and where the explanation of the Lascaux cave. So this competition, the competition order was very surprising. It was twofold. One, on the one hand, the cave had to be rebuilt, and on the other hand, an interpretation center, a museum of cave art, had to be created. So two architectures in one. The image of two eras of humanity gathered under the same roof. Two materialities, the reconstructed cave, and the museum that interprets the cave. So as unfortunately, we lost the competition, but it was a very beautiful moment of reflection. It was also a summer competition. So here, this image, and the image you are looking now, it's the copy of the copy. So it's done by Snow-Eta won the competition, so it's the Snow-Eta copy of the cave. So this is our first image. We decided to put them on top of each other, these two different architecture, to overlay the two eras. The visitor enters by descending and sliding under the volume of the museum. From the outside, the project is a mass emerging from the ground and standing at the two, emerging on the ground and standing at the foot of the hill of Lascaux, where the real Lascaux is protected. So in the hill behind, you have the real Lascaux. So the mass is made of wrought and textured concrete. The walls are expressive, as much as expressive possible. Under the mass, the visitor is at the foot of the hill. The museum is above. It is a large room in which are presented fragments of the cave. Here, the fragments have an educational role. The fragments are accompanied by multimedia devices, completed by multimedia devices. The visitors can interact with the drawing fragments. Here, two languages are associated: the archaism of the drawings, dialogues with the technological mediation. It is the meeting between two times. And this meeting is also that of two landscapes. On the two large interior walls, on the right, and you see a little bit on the left, on one side, there is the projection shows the landscape of the hill 25,000 years ago on the right. And on the left, a large window opening the room on the hill of today. It is the face-to-face of two eras. Here is the alphabet of fragments. These are massive blocks and that present in a decomposed way extracts of the cave. Each block presents its drawing in an interactive and playful way. The second room of the museum presents another meeting. around the drawings of Lascaux, there are stories and myths. Interpretations, excuse me, I'm a bit tired. Some more poetic than others. In this room, we wanted there to be a human meditation. Here, the scenography borrows the theatrical language. Mediators are presented in mini theaters embedded in the ground. The visitors can thus listen to the mythos of Lascaux. So here it's why I finished the museum works with that, because here it's one of my future dreams for museum is to have just people in museum, just have space, architecture, and people, and so to have mediations. Of course, if you have museum with collections, you have collections, but I would like one day to remove all this technology, because the technology, when you are finishing to build them, there's another one, and so and so and so. And you have also to maintain them every time, every day, and it costs a lot of money. So why don't put this money to hire some people, and to form them to be mediators for the presidential project of a city of language, international language. We won 2 years before. For the competition, we imagined that it wasn't a museum, it was a play of meeting, because it's a place for language. So we proposed the concept of médiateur, who was the person who just are there for talking to people, to read the text, to read the poem, and to exchange with them. So all the project we changed completely the program, and we suggest to do that. And of course, it was also in because the chateau of Villers-Cotterêts, which is used for this museum, is in the middle of the poorest region of France. So why put all this money without integrating people around this beautiful castle? So the project was to also to have a dynamic for the citizen, and but they found it very interesting, and we won the project. But after winning the project, they said, "Oh, we can't do that because we have money for build, and we can't put the money for build to money for maintenance and for hiring people. This is not the same packet of money, so we can do this project." That's crazy. That's completely Kafkain story. So we couldn't. We have to spend this money, and we couldn't take it and put it in another direction. So, but I think it's seriously, if one day we found a client who want to go in this direction and to just hire people, and that would be great. So, and this is just images because Yasmina told me yesterday today, not yesterday. Oh, see, yesterday, because it was before midnight, to show maybe some pictures of this work, this one master plan. So maybe I can just finish with that very quickly, but not, of course, explain all I explained yesterday, because it's quite huge. So just we was architect and typologist. We had to present some different typology in this area, and it's 30 kilometers of oasis with also a plateau of the desertic plateau, and in between this emergence rocky territory done by limestone rock. So it's a very composite landscape, and so we had to create typologies for villages, for cultural buildings, and for shelters. So here just images of different typologies we suggest. That one is the caravanserai underground we call the Silent City, which is the last villages in the way to Hegra. Hegra is the site of the southest city of Nabatean people, and where there is a lot of rocks engraved with the tombs, the facade of tombs. And so, of course, it's UNESCO. It's a very important heritage site. So the idea was to disappear completely. So the elevation of that is just aligned with just a few elements emerging. And the shelters was just playing with rocks and the formations, rock formations, as we see here. Where you see the tombs at the below right, the Nabatean tomb. It's a real crazy emotion to be there. And this playing also body and rock and shade and shadow is also the play, the animals play. So it's also an animal attitude to look for shadow, for shade, and to put the something, a refuge, a shelter there. That one is not shadow. That is just to be protected and to disappear, to be alone, and like lion. So you can imagine that this is for very important personalities, and so it's dug and buried by the top. And also this rock is very easy to bury. Of course, technically it's not easy, but it's more easier than another rock because it's sandy rock. Yes. It's also, the problem is it's too easy to bury. So it's technically, it has to be comforted. I don't know if we say that in English, comforted. Okay, so this is another one. Fault experience is between in the fault, in the two vertical walls slide into the hollow of a rocky crevice. Here, the Hegra South entrance is the last building of the journey. And so this is the entrance of the Hegra, the site. You see the far way. And so this is the entrance. So it is also the museum of Hegra, and also the departing point to go with shuttle, with little electric car. Of course, to have sound, motor sound, it has to be electrical, and also for pollution, of course. And so it's it's the last impressive of the impression, not impressive, last impression of the existing architecture, contemporary architecture existing, because after that it's completely forbidden to do anything. So it's we are at the limit, the frontier. So this is the end of the journey.
This is gorgeous. Thank you.
Thank you. So I stopped my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I did it.
You did it.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Reza.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
sorry for my English. It was approximative. And
Well, you know, that's how you learn, you practice. So, I mean,
yeah, you're right.
the work speaks for, like, really speaks. I mean, I don't know how to say that even myself. So it's just like,
Yeah,
the sensibility, in fact, I was happy you mentioned Simon Boudvin. I remember him from ESA. It's the the thinness, you know, of la subtilité, the subtlety of the work is of the work to me is really impressive. So.
And it's very frustrated because it's very difficult to, because you have the impression that you talk English because you talk like that, you know, blah, 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 blah. And when you want to put very precise word, and it's very difficult because you have the conscience that that you don't know the language really, you know. So no, it's very difficult to have the good word.
Well, Reza, if you didn't have all the images, we may have gotten a little bit lost. But with all of the images and your words, I think we got it.
Perfect.
So I have a not really a question, but an observation. So yesterday, in the work that you showed from Saudi Arabia, there was a distinct attachment to material and materiality and concerns of tactility and all of that. And in the work you showed today, that existed also, but it was always in a mirror dual condition where the other side was an image or a reflection, something that was immaterial and not tangible. So the Lascaux Museum you showed was very much about that, where the architecture at the same time had very strong material, but it was coupled with very ephemeral images of the cave. The chandelier that you showed from Fontainebleau, there was material concern in the way you made the chandelier, but then you used mirrors to reflect and change shape of the very artifact that you just made. And I noticed that in much of what you showed today, and it was really interesting because that the half that was about reflection or immaterial did not exist in the work of yesterday. Yesterday was all about, you know, substance and all of, at least that was my reading of it. So it's not a question, but just an
no, it's interesting because it's interesting what you said, because yesterday I show you some structure to become something, because it wasn't as I said, it wasn't a complete project. It was always the input of starting point of different projects. So it was lot of inputs, but each one is an input. It's a starting and showing direction. So it's I think yes, this I like very much the confrontations generally. I think it's something we like in the office, and also the confrontation between yes the scales and also the immaterial with material. And you're right, and I think it becomes, because when you use the tools of scenography and you start to integrate it in architectural language, because you are familiar with the tool, so it becomes a part of you. So you play with that, and so it's we call that grand écart in French. In one side you have the minerality, because we are passionate with that. We are very exciting with the minerality, and yes, the old and very heavy massive architecture, and the other side, the opposite, with immateriality. So how they can play together, and when we have the opportunity, it's fantastic for us.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
It makes me think, do you think architecture is like theater? What's the relationship in a way? I mean, scenography, you know, it's borrowing from the theater language. So
Yeah, completely.
is this something you, yeah. I saw a hand, Denise, maybe you wanted to speak.
Yes, thank you,
You're
Reza.
welcome.
So a couple of things, one that builds on the point that was just made. But first of all, I have to say, I hope very much that you have the opportunity to build the gallery with the suspended walls, because I want to see what children do in that space, the way they would just run away from their parents. So we would need films of that. I think that would be spectacular. But this question, I was also struck, less thinking in terms of material, but more by what you talked about, things playing together. There is this dance that your work does with history and tradition of a sort that I think sometimes we struggle with. The idea of décor, the idea of a kind of embellished surface, these very different takes on the idea of a chandelier, Corian as wallpaper, but also just, there's this sort of, maybe it takes a lot of work to be this relaxed in the presence of what can be seen as either a very heavy and authoritative, or even in some ways a very burdensome cultural heritage. And so I would just love to hear your thoughts. How do you and your colleagues talk about these seemingly very complex and heavy historical problems and give yourself the freedom to dance or to play within that context?
Yeah. Yes, because okay, it's a good question, because we are confronted to that every day, because now we are more and more called for rehabilitation and extensions, and so and we love that, because I think it is maybe 80 or 90% of architecture of tomorrow will be like that, because we have to rehabilitate and extend things. And so because the situation of Alula is very, very rare, because as it was a closed political system, it's why now there is a lot of new things to do, but it's very rare, and it's not the case of each situation, each country, and it's in Europe. I'm talking about Europe because it's our most general site of the projects. We are more comforted to build with, to rehabilitate, and to do on, and so it's we have just to understand what is the heritage. Of course, some of them it's very imposed by rules. Say, okay, this is the limit of heritage, but maybe there is another type of heritage also. For example, in Mouscron, the oral heritage, for us it was like a heritage of Versailles Castle, but it's another. It's not material; it's immaterial, but it's a heritage also. So it's a. This question of heritage is, I think, everywhere, and we love to play with this heritage. And of course, it's just to say, okay, this is another layer we add to the history, and it's dialogue. It's always question of dialogue. It's not to put it in a pedestal, and it's not also to hide it, but it's always to dialogue. So. Of course, it's a game, so it's a very human attitude.
Thank you.
I'm just going to jump back in, not to take over the stage, but one of the things you did for us, for me anyway, today, Reza, was reinforce the incredible power of architectural imagination. It was just wonderful listening to you deal with these very complex situations in our culture, and the way that you bring them together in a spatial configuration that both addresses the problems that are given to you, but also really projects all of those problems into a wholly new environment, like something that was unimaginable before, which is kudos to you, but also kind of reminds me of the power of architecture and power of architectural imagination in our culture. And I hope we can tap more and more into that through people like yourself. So thank you for reminding us of the value of architectural imagination.
Thank you very much. It's why we have to always to keep on playing in different scale and not to forget the small scales, and because there's a lot of possibility in small scales, and we haven't it if we abandon the scale when we start to deal with just big scales. And it's why transdisciplinary is very good for that, to play.
I will jump in quickly. Reza, thank you so much for this talk. And I think it's a quick question that relates to some of the other questions around sort of both maybe materiality and ephemerality. A lot of the work that you showed today involved using light or working with light. I don't even think I would say shaping light, because that's maybe a bit cliche, but really working with light as a material. And so the question is, in your practice, you showed the Zoom meeting with sort of the full team.
Yeah.
But in your practice, how do you study these conditions with light? So essentially it's a question of representation, and also in the context of Corbelletti and drawing, because I think between drawing and then computer rendering, there's sometimes a tendency for people to just sort of do something on the computer that looks like there's some light, or it's shiny, or it looks bright or something, but to really study the light. And I'm curious, do you use the computer? Is it drawings? Is it models? Is it physical mock-ups? But yeah, how do you study and experiment with these conditions? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I think the first thing is, but it's the first step. Attention, I'm not pretentious. The first thing is experience, and it's a first step. The experience, okay, this is maybe a good direction, the first step. After you go another step, okay, you have drawing with computers. We can imagine that with to parameter the light and to have an approach. And after, you have to convince the client, and it's always what we try to do, to make mock-up and models and prototype. And so if it's a complex object like the chandelier, we have to go to the prototype very soon. It's very important. And for example, for Versailles, we did the model scale 1 in a room to understand how lights work. And yes, and of course for architecture, for example, I have just a story. We did the competition, it was open competition for a mosque, Al-Nouri Mosque in Mosul, and the mosque was destroyed by ISIS, and so there was an international competition to rebuild it, and with just what the rest, because the rest was very short and very little part, but the hard part. So we try to design the light in the mosque, and I think it's the most difficult exercise in a cultural project, because it's not museum. It's not museum is easier, even if museum is very you have control, of course, but now you have different techniques to control, so it's easier, I think, than in 50s maybe. And but in mosque, for example, you have to have the light, very spiritual light, so it's less than museum, but it's more than the black room. Of course, museum is less than commercial space, etc. But so to find this limit, how to be spiritual, we did, I don't know, maybe 100 images. And the guys was, I think they wanted to kill me, because it was like we tried, I don't know, it was crazy how many images we did. And en plus it was a free competition, so we lost a lot of money, but it was very difficult to find this light. And of course now you don't know, because it's too big to make a model. So it's why it's of course more difficult for in big scales to find the good. It's difficult, but it's easier for objects.
Thank you.
What do you say if we let Reza go to sleep? It's like I don't know, 1:30 in the morning for
Yeah,
him.
1:30. Yeah. But it's okay. Now I wake up, totally wake up.
Now you're on the, what do they say, the second wind?
Yes.
So yeah, I see Marcus's sign down there. So I'll let Yasmin do the greetings and thank you, and then I will just say how grateful we are all, Reza, for your engagement. It's been fabulous, and we look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you for your trust.
In September to do the review together, and I'll be in touch with you and some of the people on the screen here, just in terms of organization and where to find the images of the drawing boards and so on. So thank you hugely. It's amazing to see your work and to hear you talk about it. And I will pass it to Yasmin.
Thank you.
Well, I mean, you ended it really well, Mehrdad. I mean, I have nothing else to say, but thank you very much, Reza, for joining us. I know it's quite an adventure, because you were in the middle of a competition, and you're speaking at midnight, but we all are really sincerely super happy to hear about your work. And I'm welcoming and I'm thankful for the occasion even to speak again with you. So thank you so much.
With pleasure.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful time. Thank you.
Thank you for your trust.
So thank you, Reza. And I just want to put one more thing out there, which is that we were all hoping to have you here in the same way that you mentioned. It's the French way, but it also is our way to welcome people here and, you know, spend time with them, have a glass of wine, or have dinner together and look at student work, or spend time one-on-one with students. All of that is a part of what we hope. So yeah, once this restrictions for travel are removed, yes, if you're able to travel, we host you here and welcome you at any time.
Thank you.
In the future to come and visit us, and we can maybe recoup some of the energy that we lost from you not visiting us.
With pleasure. Real pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you. Have a good night.
Merci. Bye bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.